On the Horde side, starting me off here in the Crossroads, level 15, getting close to 16. And let's take a look at what we've got going on here with the Mage. First I've got another duel against a 16 warrior. Let's see. Might as well. I got Frost Armor, I got Intellect. Let's see what I can do. Yeah, no chance. Excellent. Anyway, let's see what kind of abilities they give me. Once again, the troll racials, we already saw another one, but I get bonus damage against beasts. I have my 3-minute cooldown haste buff. I get bonus damage using a bow, bonus damage throwing weapons, and I get to regenerate health faster as a troll. So looking into the mage spells, I've got Arcane here, giving me Arcane Explosion, Arcane Intellect, Arcane Missiles. I'm getting my food and water. They're separate here. I don't have to make any kind of feast. I have to conjure food and water separately. And it can only be used by certain levels. This one does not say, doesn't say what level it takes, but if you're only level 40, you can't use level 60 conjured food, and so forth. You have to use the correct level conjured food. So you get multiple ranks for that. Dampen Magic. This is a external cooldown you can use on a player. It's usually more PvP related, but increases the damage taken from spells and the healing spells by up to 20. I'm not sure why it's decreasing damage from healing spells, but so you can put this on somebody and it decreases the damage they take for 10 minutes. So you can use this on like the tanks in a raid or in a dungeon to decrease the damage they take. Polymorph, still standard, slow fall. Fire mages, right now I just have Fire Blast and Fireball. Unfortunately, fire mages are fairly useless in max level content because in Classic WoW we've got the class of your spell actually matters. We've got our Arcane, our Fire, our Nature, our Frost, and our Shadow. There's also Earth, which I guess Earth is Nature. But the resistances actually matter, and if you attack a character that is of one of these elements, then they resist the spell that you cast. So if you look at things like Blackrock Descent, upper Blackwing layer, lower Blackwing layer, Molten Core, oh sorry, it's not upper Black, it's upper Blackwing Spire, or Blackrock Spire, sorry. But Blackwing layer, all of those have mobs that are completely fire in them, and so Fire Mage has half their spells are completely resisted, because I can't focus on the fire because it's just not going to do any damage. So that's very unfortunate for Fire Mages in Classic. You can obviously play a viable Fire Mage in AQ, Zul'Gurub, and Naxxramas. You could play a Fire Mage, but in the beginning levels, the max level dungeons and the max level raids, the first couple ones, Onyxia's Lair, Molten Core, and Blackwing Lair, you're not really going to be able to play Fire. So your choice is Arcane or Frost. Frost here, I've got Frost Armor, slows their movement speed and attack speed if they attack me. Frost Nova and Frost Bolt. Fire mages are great for PvP. but I believe they can be viable for in-game as well. So your choice, Arcane or Frost, when you get to the end game. Fire you cannot do until you get past Blackwing Layer, to when their things don't resist fire anymore. And actually Frost you could not do in certain parts of Nax, would not allow you to be a Frost Mage. But Fire should be viable. I'm trying to think of the bosses in Nax, but I think Fire should be viable for every boss in Nax. But it's completely resisted for the bosses in Molten Core and Blackwing Layer. Alright, let's take a look at our talent tree here in Arcane. Again, just like every other class, most of these early spells are just increasing my damage or my my attack speed or something like that. So increase my damage with wands, increasing my chance to avoid being interrupted using arcane missiles, things like that. Let's see what abilities are not baseline. Presence of Mind would activate your next mage spell. Cast it with less than 10 seconds becomes instant cast spell. So we saw the same one in, I believe, druids. We saw them have that almost this exact same talent. This is not a great talent, other than if you're going to cast an instant cast Pyroblast. I believe, no, except Pyroblast is here. So you could go down and hit Pyroblast in the talent tree here, and then in Arcane you could go down here, and then because it's a 6-second cast, you should be able to use this ability, hit Pyroblast, and do an instant Pyroblast, which would be quite powerful, but only every 3 minutes. That's kind of the theme we've seen in Classic, is that all of these big DPS cooldowns give you basically one ability every 3 minutes, versus Modern WoW, where your DPS cooldown is more like it gives you a time frame of like you do damage for 8 seconds or 10 seconds or 20 seconds. You do bonus crit or something like that, versus in Classic it's every 3 minutes you get to do one spell that's a big hit. And then let's see, we've got Arcane Power. When activated, your spells deal 30% more damage while casting 30% more mana to cast. Okay, so this is going to be a mana drain, but you're going to be able to do a ton of damage while that's up. Thankfully, mages back in Classic have multiple ways to restore mana. You can make mana crystals, which is kind of like a mana stone. It's like a health stone that only mages can use though to return mana. So you get to return mana that way. You also have what's the name of the spell? Forgetting that starts with an E. Shoot, I'm losing it, and I have no way to look it up at the moment. The one that makes the purple swirls around you and restores mana, but I'm forgetting the name of it at this time. But anyway, there's ways to get mana back, so that'll be a good one for Arcane. While leveling, you could go Fire here. Some just basic spells here, increasing your damage or your survivability. And then of course we have Pyroblast, which does your biggest hit as well as applies a dot with no cooldown, so you can just cast them back to back, but they cost 6 seconds, so you don't really want to cast that too often. And then Blast Wave, wave of flame radiates outward from the caster, damaging all enemies caught within the blast. So you're just going to send a fire wave in front of you on a 45-second cooldown, instant cast. Some good burst damage there. And then your max level fire talent, Combustion. When activated, this spell causes each of your fire damage spells to hits to increase your critical strike chance with fire damage spells by 10%. This effect lasts until you have 3 critical strikes with fire spells. So you're gonna be, you're gonna have a 10% critical strike chance when your first spell hits, and the second one's gonna have a 20% bonus crit strike chance, and the third one will have a 30%, and then it'll go away. Once again, a 3-minute cooldown, but that's a better one than the Arcane, which only gave you one spell. or this one gives you 15 seconds, I guess, as your max level. So I guess that's pretty similar to this one. You have, probably take you about 15 seconds, same as this one. Very similar max level talents there. And then we've got the frost spells. Let's see, Cold Snap. When activated, the spell finishes the cooldown on all of your frost spells. Okay, so on a 10-minute cooldown, that's quite long, but it gives you an instant refresh of all of your abilities. Let's see, your Ice Block is here, which is now baseline in Modern WoW. You can take your Ice Block spell for survivability, and then your max level Ice Barrier instantly shields you, absorbing damage, lasts 1 minute while the shield holds, spells will not be interrupted. Okay, so more of a PvP talent for sure, because I guess it could be a defensive cooldown if the boss is going to do an AoE ability. You could use Populus as a defensive, but it's going to be on a 30-second cooldown, so it can be used quite a bit, and your spells don't get interrupted. So definitely a great PvP talent. Allows you to cast freely at a warrior or a rogue that might be hammering on you. I believe there's other ones in here that are good for PvP. Let's see. Mostly just increasing your damage, your range, reducing mana cost, increases critical strike chance, increases damage done. Okay, so I guess most of these are just damage. So yeah, I think Frost and Arcane are your main choices for raiding. Fire is a possibility. They did not put my wand here. Let's put my wand ability in here. Much more powerful than my staff. Okay, so my staff is going to do. It's got a 2.9 cast speed versus my wand is 1.5. My wand is doing about half the damage, but you look at my DPS, 8.6 versus 7.0, so it's going to be faster. Usually, if you're a wand class, Warlock, Mage, Priest, to use your wand as your filler attack versus your staff, and also you can see it ranged that way. Okay, give me intellect again. I've got my frost armor on, ready to go kill something. Alright, let's check out these cast speeds. Not too bad. Oh yeah, very powerful, look at that. Just a couple hits, took them all the way down. Let's see how my mana usage is though. Alright, so 2 things dead, and I am now almost out of mana. 85 mana, 75, 65, and 50. So my cheapest ones are definitely those 2. So the best leveling technique, just like the priest, is going to be to cast 1 or 2 spells here, and then wand them. And that's going to be your best option. Obviously, as a mage, you've got better options for getting away from multiple things attacking you, such as Frost Nova and Polymorph. You'll have Blink later, things like that. And I believe in general, you'd only end up using one or the other of your spells. You're not going to be casting back and forth like I'm doing right now, because you're going to take in your talent tree. Either you're going to increase your fire ball damage or your fire spells or your frost damage. So both these reduce cast time, reduces their chance to resist the frost or fire, so that's good for both, I guess. But you're probably going to stick to one or the other. But yeah, this is looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and switch over to the next class. I think the Mage is going to be pretty fast and fun, um, and I know I'm not generally, if you know me in modern WoW, I'm not much of an alt guy. I like to stick to one character. But I think when I play Classic, I will be a lot more into alts because there's a lot less that needs to be accomplished on one character, like achievements and reputations and stuff like that. There's a lot more option to, a lot more things that I can do with other classes. I don't need to stick to one. Alright, let's check out our Warlock here. Here's the old gnome model. Let's take Mr. Westertink here into Westfall. Alright, here we are. Got my Warlock. Now, the biggest change with Warlocks from Classic to Modern is Soul Shards. My abilities require Soul Shards to cast them. Let's see. Which one actually, do I have one that requires it? None of these abilities require soul shards at the moment. Well, I guess they will have to come later. But anyway, you have to get soul shards, which they've given me 4. They do not stack. You have to have, each one has to have an individual spot, and then you have to use them to cast your abilities. So you gotta have lots of bag space, and you have to have lots of them. And so you only get one. If you look here, drains the soul of the target, causing 25 shadow damage over 15 seconds. If the target dies while being drained and yields experience or honor, the caster gains a soul shard. Soul shards are required for other spells. So you get 1 soul shard per target, only if you're casting this on them when they die. So when you see things about to die, you quickly switch to drain soul, you get a soul shard, and then you can use that soul shard to do things like summon, put up a summoning portal, or I guess there are no summoning portals actually. You summon each person individually, but every summon takes a soul shard. Other spells later will take a soul shard. So you can only get 1 per target, and you may use 5 on the same target, so you're quickly going to run out of soul shards, which is why later on tailors can make I think there's a recipe that drops from Molten Core that lets you make a soul shard bag. You can put that in your, like an ammo pouch. It'll hold only soul shards, and it's a much bigger bag. It's like an 18 slot bag. Holds only soul shards. But before raid, one of the jobs of a warlock is to form up a small group, go out and hunt down a bunch of level 60s and level 60 mobs and drain souls to fill up the warlock's soul shards, because without those soul shards, the warlock's going to be much less effective in the raid. Because if you think about, use 5 on a single Molten Giant in or Core Hound in Molten Core, and then you only get 1 in return, so you're going to quickly run out. So you got to load up your bags full of soul shards. And that's the biggest difference that's changed from warlocks. Let's take a look at the talent trees. Unfortunately, Affliction could be extremely powerful, but because of some classic limitations, they are not as effective as they need to be. In Modern WoW, we don't think about it at all. Putting debuffs on the target, casting our dots, putting bleeds and all that kind of stuff on a target, because it doesn't matter. Back in Classic WoW, though, each target could only have a total of 16 debuffs on them. And so if you have one Warlock that casts, if I cast Corruption, and then I cast Curse of Weakness, or I cast Curse of Agony or something like that on the target, I now have 3 debuffs on the target. And so once we hit 16, then the first ones are going to start to fall off. So sure, you could play Affliction in a 5-man dungeon, no problem. There's not going to be between the five of you, you're not going to have more than 16 debuffs probably. However, when you get to Radiant and you got 40 people, if not even everyone can put a single debuff on the target. So it's very important in Classic that you limit the debuffs that you put on an enemy, because if we have Sunder Armor, which reduces their armor and keeps threat for the tank, but then a Warlock casts a spell on it, and it's the 17th spell, that Sunder Armor may fall off of the target, and then you lose threat, you lose the armor debuff, which is more important, and so an Affliction Warlock is not great for raiding in Classic, unfortunately. That they have the damage there, they have the abilities, but they just don't have the ability to put dots on a target because of that debuff. But let's take a look at the Amplified Curse. Increases the effect of your next Curse of Weakness or Curse of Agony by 50%, or your next Curse of Exhaustion by 20%. So you've got a 3-minute cooldown that gives you, once again, 1 spell. We've seen that trend in a bunch of other specs as well. On a 3-minute cooldown, you get 1 cast. That's great. Curse of Exhaustion, reduce the target's movement speed by 10%. Only 1 curse per. This is mostly a PvP talent. This is to slow people down. You can increase that. So this is slows them by 10%. You put 4 into here. That's another 20%. So you have a total of 30% slow. And then if you use this one beforehand, it's going to be 50% slow on a target. So that's a great spell to slow somebody down. And it lasts for 12 seconds. So great PvP viability right there. Any other baseline? Siphon Life transfers health to you. This is like Drain Life. So there's I guess it's an instant cast. Okay, so Drain Life is a channeled spell, versus Siphon Life is a dot you put on them, and it gives you life over 30 seconds. So that just helps you heal up. And then your max level, Dark Pact, drains 150 of your pet's mana, returning 100% to you. So a great way to get mana back. Instant cast, no cooldown, so it just relies on your pet getting their mana back. But that's a great spell to return mana, so I'm guessing Affliction Locks will not have many mana problems once they get to level 40 and above. Let's take a look at Demonology here. Now you don't have all of the crazy demons that you had back in you have in Modern WoW. I believe you only have the 4 main demons. You've got the Imp, you've got the Succubus. I guess you have 5 demons technically. You have the Succubus, you've got the Void Lord, you've got the Fellhound for PvP, and then you've got the Infernal that you can drop that will only last for a little while before it turns on you. It'll turn and it'll start attacking you and everybody around you. Let's take a look at what other... Fell Domination, your next Imp, Voidwalker, Succubus, or Fell Hunter summon spell has its cast time reduced by 5.5 seconds, and its mana cost reduced by 50. Okay, so that's good. Reduce the summoning time of my demons. And let's see. Demonic Sacrifice. Sacrifice your summoned demon to grant you an effect that lasts for 30 minutes. This effect is cancelled if any demon is summoned. So Imp increases my fire damage by 15%. Well, considering Destruction is where most of the fire damage comes from, I'm not sure that you want to sacrifice your Imp too much. Voidwalker restores health every 4 seconds. So you replace instead of having him as a tank for you, you get health back. Succubus increases your shadow damage by 15%. Fell Hunter restores 2% of your total mana every 4 seconds. Okay, so a bunch of options there on sacrificing your demon. And then, let's see, our max level. This is unique. We haven't seen this in any other class. There's 2 max level abilities here. Improved Spellstone, increase the amount of damage absorbed by your Spellstone by 15%. And then Soul Link. When active, 0% of all damage taken by the caster is taken by your imp instead. In addition, both the demon and the master will inflict 3% more damage. Okay, so this is something that it's just an instant cast and lasts as long as the demon is alive. So you put all of the damage onto your pet, or into your demon. So if you summon the Void Walker, which has the most health, and then use this, he's going to take all damage, and you're not going to take any damage. It's a great leveling and soloing ability. Probably not something you're going to do in raiding, because you shouldn't be taking that much damage anyway. Take a look at destruction here. And what kind of base abilities do we have? Shadow Burn. Instantly blast the target for 87 to 99 shadow damage. If the target dies within 5 seconds of Shadow Burn, deals experience honor, the caster gets a soul shard. Okay, an extra way to get a soul shard. It actually costs a soul shard though, so you can see the reagents cost a soul shard, and then gives one back if it dies within 5 seconds of this being used. So it could be free if you time it correctly. And then the only one, Conflagrate, ignites the target that's already afflicted by Immolate, dealing a big burst damage on them on a 10-second cooldown. A great way to burst something down. So if you look at the damage there, it's going to be pretty high. This obviously will change with class. Once I get up there, my Shadow Bolt will get higher in damage by that point, but right now I'm doing 60 damage versus Conflagrate's going to do 4 times to 5 times as much. So that's going to be a great spell once you get down there. So for raiding, it looks like you're mostly going to be going Destruction, because Demonology really focuses on the demons, which we don't really care too much about improving the Succubus or increasing the health of our demons and increasing the damage done by the demons as much. Your main focus here is going to be questing. This might be more PvP, or you could do it for group content, 5-man content. Destruction is going to be mostly your raid spec for doing maximum damage on a boss. So to start off, they gave me, let's see, Gnome passives. Arcane resistance increases resistance to arcane damage. Better at engineering. I've got I can use this to escape from all immobilizing or movement speed reduction effects. Intelligence increased by 5%, so this is a great race to go if you're going to be doing a Warlock or a Mage or any caster. That intellect is going to be great. Under Affliction, I've got my Corruption dot. I have my Curse of Agony as a dot. Didn't even put that on my spell bar there. Curse of Recklessness, Curse of Weakness, Drain Life, Drain Soul. I can fear the target, just like Modern hasn't changed. Life Tap, converting my health into mana. So I can literally kill myself by converting my health into mana. Can create health stones, excellent, but it requires a soul shard, and you cannot drop a well of health stones already take. You have to create one and pass it out to every person. So if we want to fill a 40-man raid with health stones, I need 40 soul shards before the raid even starts. That doesn't even count doing any damage or anything. If I want to summon a Voidwalker, it takes a soul shard. Imp is free, thankfully, but Voidwalker takes a soul shard. Summoning people takes a soul shard, and it's 1 per person. So again, if I'm going to summon a whole raid, I'm going to need, now we're looking at 80 soul shards I'm going to need to summon a whole raid and give them all a health zone. So that's before raid even starts. I need at least 80 soul shards. That means I have to kill at least 80 mobs before the raid even starts. Demon Skin gives me some armor and restores health. Definitely going to put that one on. Let's see. Immolate, yep. Make it, let them burn, and then a Shadow Bolt. So some standard spells there that are still around today. Let's go find something to kill. You're level 13, I'll take you. Had the trouble yesterday of going the other side of the tower here and facing level 17s that were killing me. So I'm glad we found a 13 here. I'm going to take... I'm not going to use... Well, maybe I need to use Life Tap. I'm going to put that back on. Put Life Tap back on, but I also wanted to put on Curse of Agony. I can only have one curse per Warlock. So let's see my choice here. Curse of Weakness. Their damage is reduced, or I do damage over time that builds up. So we'll go with that. Start with a Corruption. Go with my instant cast Agony. I got 3 dots on him. And my imp is doing nothing. Why aren't you attacking? There it goes. That would have been helpful, a little imp. How about you help me this time? I guess I have to send the imp in every time. So Warlock may be able to get by without using the wand as much because of that imp's damage. The other caster classes keep using a wand as a filler, but the imp might do everything I need him to. Let's try to start him right away here. Yeah, I'm not really having any mana issues at all with the Warlock. So it's going to help for faster questing. You're going to be able to drop things faster without having to stop and drink or limiting your spell casts. It's a little bit annoying that you have to continually tell your imp to attack instead of just letting him attack. I thought with defensive he would do that. Okay, maybe if I take off that one so he's not invisible. Let's see if he attacks now. Take off his invisibility. Oh yeah, looks like he's attacking on his own now. Okay, so that's something you can do. You want to put the invisibility on so you make sure you don't pull stuff accidentally if you're trying to sneak through somewhere, but you can also take it off if you want him to help you attack right away. Unlike in Modern WoW, this one defensive is no longer there. You now have assist, so the target always, your pet always attacks your target that you're attacking. In this one, defensive, they're only going to attack an enemy if it hits you and does damage to you. You can put it on aggressive, but it's going to attack anything that it sees, and that's not always a good idea. But Warlock's going to be interesting to go again with the soul shards to see how that plays out. Having to go out and farm those shards, that's not anybody's favorite, but that's one of the penalties of being a Warlock, is you definitely got to get out there, get those shards in order to be viable for the raid. You're going to have to spend an hour before raid just getting those shards. Alright. Guess there's no inn right here, so I'm just gonna do the long way out. And our last one to look at is a warrior, and on the last race that we have not looked at, the night elf. I I believe it still starts to be here in Westfall. Everybody just starts in Westfall. Even though the Night Elves probably will not be questing Westfall too much. Okay, here's a female Night Elf. Look at the old polygon model. Not too many details, but some definite nostalgia there if you remember playing a Night Elf back in the day. And here we are. Okay. So let's take a look at some warrior stuff going on here. Not too much changed on the warrior as far as how they play. You've got your same rage bar, builds up the same way. As a protection warrior, you're pretty much the only viable tank for raid. Other classes can get by. Druids and paladins can get by as tanks in 5-man dungeons. Even enhancement shamans can get by as a tank in a 5-man dungeon. But if you're going into raid, you're going to have multiple warriors, and that's the only thing you can do for a tank. You have to be a warrior tank. So if you plan to tank in classic, level a warrior. That's your only choice. Thankfully, there are more than 2 tanks needed for raids in the 40-man raids. They'll often bring 4 or maybe even more tanks, so there will be multiple opportunities to tank instead of just 2. Let's see what kind of baseline abilities we have here as our last stand. Okay, that's a standard one in modern. Gives you the temporarily increases your health. Concussion blow stuns the target. And shield slam slams with your shield, causing damage, and has a 50% chance of dispelling one magic effect on the target. Also causes a high amount of threat. So this is one of your main threat-causing abilities. Does a high amount of damage to a target, and builds threat for you as the tank. Your other main ability for building threat is your Sunder Armor, which, let's see if they even gave it to me yet. I do have it. Okay, so Sunder Armor reduces their armor by 90 and also causes a high amount of threat. You can do it up to 5 times. So a lot of times in Classic, you're going to hear wait for 3 Sunders or wait for 5 Sunders, because every time you Sunder, you're building more threat, and you need lots of threat because threat is a huge thing to contend with in Classic, unlike Modern, where threat isn't that big of a deal anymore, unless there's like a skittering Mythic Plus affix that week. But in Classic, you definitely need to wait for that threat. So Sundering Armor builds a high threat. Reduce the cost of my Sunder Armor by 1. Would probably be good to take, so you're not rage starved all the time. Let's take a look at the Fury talent tree here. Piercing Howl causes all enemies to be dazed. Reduces their movement speed by 50%. Okay. Any other baseline Fury abilities here? Just Bloodthirst. Instantly attacks the target, causing damage equal to 45% of your attack power. In addition, the next 5 successful melee attacks will restore 10% health. Okay, so it's only on a 6-second cooldown and lasts for 8 seconds, so you could have that up all the time. So it's going to be causing your next hit to do more damage, and you get health back for the next 5 hits. So that's a good way to get health back as a Fury Warrior. Let's take a look at our arms. Increases the time requirement for your Rage Decay while out of combat by 30%. Okay. So it helps you faster between mobs to keep your rage. You can kill faster while questing. You can go one to the next. Sweeping Strikes, your next 5 abilities attack a nearby opponent. This is a baseline, I believe, in Modern WoW, but this is one of your main AoE abilities as a arms warrior. And then Mortal Strike, which is definitely baseline. Reduce the effectiveness of any healing by 50%. Great PvP ability. Can be used on certain bosses in raids that do have heals. It is effective for that. But you're definitely not going to take every ability in a warrior talent tree because you've got weapon skills. As you remember, we've got weapon skills here, and you do more damage if you max out your weapon skill for that particular weapon that you're carrying. Right now I've got a sword on, only 70 out of 75. Actually I have a two-handed sword, so I'm either way still 70 out of 75. So I'm doing close to my best with swords right now. But you can max out your abilities, but then you can do even more damage by specializing in those. So as an arms warrior, you can do basically any of the main weapons. So I have 200 weapon specialization, or I can choose to do, I don't know if there's a one-handed specialization. Probably not, because your arms warrior, you're only going to be using two-handed weapons. But you can specialize in axes, or maces, or swords, or polearms. So you're going to be choosing which one you're using, which two-handed weapon you're going to be using. Swords give you a chance to get an extra attack on the same target. Maces give you a 1% chance to stun your target. Axe gives you a chance to get a critical strike, and polearm gives you a better chance to get a critical strike. Okay, so those are exactly the same, actually. Polearm and axe. A little bit different from the sword and the mace. You'll notice also in Fury, there's no such thing as dual-wielding two-handers. You're limited to one-handed. If this hunter wants to fight me, let's see what I can do. Okay, unfortunately for him, hopefully, unfortunately for him, he will not be able to do anything to me because
I cannot attack that.
Because he has a a minimum range. He can't shoot me with anything. He's trying to run away, but he can't do anything because 3 times mixed between. Yeah, sure, buddy. Alright. So let's take a look at my spells. The Night Elf racials, we've got Nature Resistance, going to be great for Zul'Gurub and AQ. Quickness, increasing my dodge, so great for being a warrior tank. Shadow Meld, can blend into the shadows as a stealth. And then transform into Wisp on death, increasing speed, so faster moving as a spirit when I'm dead. The base spells they give you out here level 15. I've got Battle Stance and I've got Protection Stance, Defensive Stance. I have to earn Berserker Stance later on. I'll have a quest line to go earn that. That's something I really miss in Modern WoW is class-specific quests that teach you something valuable about your class. Maybe you earn a great weapon that's only for your class. Maybe you earn a new ability. Like I have fond memories of going as a warrior and learning how to get Berserker Stance or how to get a big axe as a warrior. I have fond memories as a priest learning how to use getting benediction and getting I'm forgetting the name of the spell. Shadow orbs or shadow spell around me. But I miss that. I miss getting those class-specific quests. So let's go kill something that's not a person. Oh, something else to keep in mind is that back in Classic, everybody has a ranged slot. So warriors can use bows and guns and throwing knives. So you're going to have a ranged slot here that you can use. It's not just hunters. You can use it. It doesn't do a lot of damage because you literally just put a weapon in here as a stat stick, and then you can just shoot the gun or shoot the crossbow or the bow. That's all you can do. You don't have any extra abilities that do more damage with it like the hunter does, but it is a good way to pull something, or if you have to stay at range because of a boss mechanic, you can at least do something while you're standing there. And after all the hunters get their bows, then they can start passing them off to people like warriors and rogues. They can also use them. Alright, I believe what I remember from Classic WoW as a arms warrior is that you want to have the slowest swinging weapon you can. So this one's a 2.8. You can get some weapons that are like 3.1, I believe. But you want those slow weapons as an arms warrior. Versus some classes like rogues want really fast weapons. Fury warrior will want a very fast weapon.
I'm out of range.
It's a little bit slow with my rage generation, but I'm doing decent damage. I don't have to worry about mana, so overall I think it will end up faster than a caster class as far as questing goes. Maybe not as fast as the rogue or the hunter that was dropping things super fast, but still decent. Decent kill speed here. Well, my Sunder missed. I increased my sword skill though. I have to level up those skills, and every time you level up, once I hit level 16, I have to go another 5 levels on my weapon skills. So if you neglect a weapon skill for multiple levels, you may have to level, like if you might put 40 more levels into it before you can even use it.
I don't have a target.
Alright, so I don't get things as a warrior such as Heroic Leap, Heroic Throw. Those are spells that were added in later expansions. Those are not going to be in here in Classic. But a lot of the same baseline abilities have not changed in a warrior. They're pretty similar in a lot of ways. I think warrior's going to be great. I'm trying to decide between my main as a healer or as a tank because I want to do some raiding and I want to be critically viable for the raid team. So I either need to be a great healer or a great tank. I've been a healer my whole WoW career, so I had considered going for a tank in Classic. But we'll see. I'll probably end up leveling multiple classes and just see what's needed. That's another way to be viable. Needed for a raid team is just to be able to play everything. Because class stacking is a real thing, in Classic especially. Especially when you can't use things like certain classes of spell you can't use on certain bosses. Like you can't use a fire spell, so you can't have a elemental shaman casting fire. You can't have a fire mage. You can't have a destruction warlock. But you can use different classes, different specs to make to stack up what you need and to kill what you need. But overall, thanks for looking at these classes with me. If there's anything else that you want to see in Classic before the demo goes away on Monday, just make a comment and let me know, or send me a message and I'll make a video of it for you. Unfortunately, they kind of limit us to certain areas. I can't really leave Westfall. I can't really leave the Barrens. So I'm kind of limited there, but if there's something specific you want to see, I can try to find it for you. I can't go see class trainers, things like that. They're in the cities that I can't get to. And the demo ends on Monday. So this may be my last classic video, but I might be able to get one more in of something else. Overall, thanks for watching. And tune in later this weekend. I'll be doing some PTR raid testing of the normal raid. So hope to see you there. Alright, bye.